Hi, welcome to International Women's Day. Hi, ladies. It's great to see you today. International women from all over the world. I'm excited about this because International Women's Day is an opportunity for us to get together to share our message with the world so we can make a greater impact on the planet. As the founder and CEO of Action Takers Publishing, a book publishing company, our mission is to get those stories into the world. And this is one of the ways that we can do that. So I'm excited to introduce to you the ladies that we have here today. They're going to share a message with you. They'll get 4 minutes to talk about something that is going to be inspirational, motivational. It's going to help you to get from where you are today to where you want to go. It's going to help you to take that next step, whatever that next step is in your life. Just know this, that wherever you are today in your life, things can get better, but it starts with you. So these messages today are going to be related to that, to help you, again, to take that step forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our first speaker of the day is Sally Larkin Green. Go and unmute yourself, Sally. And I'm going to spotlight you. I'm going to put 4 minutes on the clock, and it is your time to shine, girl.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to start by just sharing a little bit about how I came to be in the publishing space. During COVID, I was in a really bad place. I had lost a job. I was 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And emotionally, spiritually, physically, I was a wreck. And I woke up one morning and I looked in the mirror and I realized that I was really, really good at taking care of everybody else, taking care of my family, taking care of my home, taking care of my parents. But I was really, really bad at taking care of me. And that was kind of a wake-up call. And actually, it was 5 years ago this month that I had that awakening. And I decided that, you know what, I'm going to start pouring into myself. And so I went online and I invested in myself, some money in myself, and took some online courses. And I started eating healthier. I started exercising. And it wasn't, it wasn't the self-care wasn't that I was going to the spa and getting my nails done and doing that kind of stuff. It was inner work that I really needed to do. And so I got offered, from taking the course, I got offered the opportunity to be in my very first collaboration book. I had no idea what a collaboration book was. But I knew I always wanted to be a writer. I loved writing, and I was always writing stories and things for when I was little for my brothers and when my daughter was small. And so doing that, being in my first collaboration book, I just loved the process so much that I decided to do it again. And I joined a second one. And the first book was called One Habit for Entrepreneurial Success. It was 150 highly successful authors and business owners and coaches and me, this housewife from Connecticut who had a small business that I was running, and I absolutely hated it. And so I did that book. I did another book, and I just loved connecting with those people that were in that first book. So what I did was one Saturday morning, I got the book out and I went on Facebook and I sent Facebook friend requests to all the other people that were in that book. And I said, hey, we're in the same book together. What do you have going on that I can support you with? And I started showing up at their masterminds and showing up at courses and taking courses that they were offering and connecting with these people. And it changed my life. And that's how I met Linda. So Linda was one of those people. She was in that book. I connected with her. I started going to her Saturday morning Zoom classes that she was hosting, and she was putting some books together. So I joined her books. It was just a natural progression. And I joined her 2 books, and it was just, it's been just, I want to say a wild ride for the last 5 years. It has been 5 years? 5 years, right? Since 2020. And my life today, I look at where I was and where I am now. I don't even recognize that person that I was 5 years ago. Everything has shifted in my life. And so, I just want to say that, you can't, and here I was, at the time I was 58 years old. So it's never too late to change, to pour into yourself, to do some self-care and take care of you, because no one else is going to do it. No one else is going to take care of you the way that you should be taking care of yourself. So, step into your power, share your story, and be the person that, International Women's Day was created for.
You got some music in yours. Congratulations. Sally, thank you so much. And, pouring into yourself, what a great message. This is what I love about this is that your message of pouring into yourself, like you said, it wasn't about going to the spa. It wasn't about all that stuff. It was the inner work, because everything does start with us. And so thank you so much for being here, being in my life, and being a huge part of what we do here at Action Takers Publishing. With that said, we do have several collaboration books that we're working on right now. And if you're interested in checking them out, you can go to actiontakerspublishing.com/collab. One of our books, we actually have a special going on right now. Sally, why don't you mention the name of that book? Because I know we just changed the title, and we did some changes there.
Yeah, it's Yes, I Can, and I Did. So we're looking for stories of perseverance, things that maybe people told you shouldn't do, or people that said, hey, you know what, I don't think you should be doing that, and you did it anyway. Maybe it's family, maybe it was friends, maybe someone, made some kind of remark to you, and you really took it to heart and thought, you know what, maybe I'm not going to be good at this. Maybe this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And that's exactly what happened to me when I first started. Someone said to me, you can't be a coach. No one's going to want to listen to you. You don't have a college degree. And so I kind of was like, you know what, watch me. So, and actually the original title of this was Watch Me, but we changed it to Yes, I Can, and I Did. So yeah, that's available right now. It's $500 a chapter. But if you use the promo code WOMEN, you get $100 off. So it's only $400 to be part of the book. And
right, through the end of International Women's Day. At the next day, it goes back up to 500. And actually, we're going to change the price to 1,000. I haven't told Sally that yet. So we're making some changes behind the scenes. So if you want to join us, go to actiontakerspublishing.com/yes-author. And so with that said, Sally, thanks so much for sharing your story, your message of pouring into yourself. Thank you, Sally.
Yep.
Okay, next up, we have Chineme. Let's see, I'm going to find you here, Chineme, on my screen. And I see that you're unmuted. Awesome. Chineme, I'm going to put 4 minutes on the clock, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Linda. And lovely, Sally. That was a lovely contribution. Mine is a bit unorthodox because it's not about motivation or inspiration. Well, it is in a way, but it's not about me. It's really about my daughter. I'm a lawyer. I'm an attorney in London, UK. And after I qualified, I was made a manager of a team of lawyers before I actually qualified as a lawyer myself, because you've got to do 2 years training after all your qualifications. So I was made, so that's how quickly I rose up the ranks. So I was flying high, loved what I did. In my 30s, I was made the head of a big legal team within the public sector. And then I got pregnant unexpectedly unexpectedly. Anyway, I got pregnant, and I loved the law. I loved work. I loved reading. I loved all of that. I loved my team. They were like my family, my children. But all of a sudden, I realized that my daughter had special needs. She had a learning disability, profound cognitive disability. And my love for my work and my team and everything professional dissipated because I wanted to be with my child. So what I did, I arranged a way to remove myself from the corporate life, which I really wanted to do anyway. So my daughter gave me that outlet. And what I did was become within the school system, I became a governor within my daughter's school. And so I was at the school nearly all the time. I went to all the shows. I was with my daughter. I made sure she got the care that she needed. But her disability, her learning cognitive disability, meant that she couldn't read. Now, I've been a reader since I was 4 years old. I'd love to read. I read everything. That's why I became a lawyer, because I just wanted to read. And I couldn't conceive of a life for my daughter where she couldn't read. So I had to try to get the education system, her school, to make sure that she could read in a way that she could understand. I can see that timer going down. Long story short, I fought for many years. I made recommendations to the panel in the school and everything, but they're saying, oh, we don't have the resources, blah, blah, blah. In the end, I had to take the local authority to court because they have a duty to teach children in the way that they need to be taught, not in just the conventional way that many, many, many children don't understand. And it was like a different world to me because I had no idea that this world existed. But I wanted to be part of it and I wanted to change it and I wanted to make people aware of what was happening to their children in schools. Anyway, long story short, after many years, I took the local authority to court. I couldn't, by then I'd left work, like I said, and I was working from home on the internet, but the systems, the agencies that I got my daughter to go into, I had to be with her at all times. The local authority, the school wouldn't help me at all. So that meant that I couldn't work. So I was getting no income. But I had a car that I'd totally paid for years before. So I said to my daughter, you're going to learn to read, even if we end up, getting foreclosed on and we end up sleeping in the car. You're going to learn to read. So we went to court because they just wouldn't agree. We couldn't come to any agreement. So I went to court. I had to do it myself because I couldn't afford an education lawyer. So I did it myself. Long story short, I won the case. It's a landmark case where the schools have got to teach children with special needs in the way that they can learn. My daughter's now a prolific reader. And many women go through this, don't they?
That is so amazing. That's the power of perseverance, right? You just kept going and you just believed that this would happen. It actually reminds me of a story of Napoleon Hill tells in Think and Grow Rich. You'd have to go read it because we don't have time for that today, but it really reminds me of that. And so Chineme, thank you so much for sharing that story, that message, and congratulations for just keep going. You didn't end up living in a car, did you?
No.
Okay.
Thank goodness. No.
Yeah, thank goodness. That would be maybe a little harder than you really want to do. But, but I get the point. The point is that, like, I'm going to do this come hell or high water. I'm going to make it happen.
Persistence, dedication, and never give up.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being here on International Women's Day from the UK. Chineme, thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Oh my gosh, we're off to a great start, ladies. I'm loving so far what we're hearing. I'm going to love everything. I already know it because I just love hearing the stories. But we're going to bring up our next speaker, who is Lori. So Lori, go ahead and unmute yourself, and I'm going to bring you up on the stage. Can't wait to hear what you have to share, Lori. I'm going to disappear. You got 4 minutes on the clock. The time is yours.
Thank you. My name is Lori Danecke, and I'm a transformation and empowerment coach for women. And February 2nd, 2022 was a turning point in my life. At that point, I was in complete fear. Fear of the future, didn't know what was going on. My life was miserable. I was in a marriage that was just a convenience at that point. And my journey started when I was fearful of the future. And it took some determination and some persistence and a lot of tears to get me to the point where I could take that first step with courage and belief in myself. Because I was an empty shell. I was lost. I felt lost, alone. I was scared, and I didn't know who I was anymore. So what happened was, it was all really the game of golf actually saved my life. And because I was so frustrated in my game, and the game of golf is a direct reflection of what's going on in your life. I was that frustrated golfer. And when I started doing the inner work and releasing my negative thoughts and emotions and crap around my golf game and trying to figure out my golf game, what I did was I figured out it was the same thing that was inside of me. So I started doing the transformation process with mentors, and it totally changed my attitude. It became a positive attitude instead of a what's the point attitude. And I started to believe more and more in myself, trust myself more. And this is what I want for all women in the world, is to have that belief and trust in themselves, because we are our own worst enemies. We are the hardest on ourselves, not anybody else. It's us that's the hardest on ourselves. Yes, society has expectations, etc. But what it really is with the expectations that we put on ourselves based on how we grew up. So I want every woman to have that belief in herself and trust in herself, because what that's going to do, it's going to allow you to rejuvenate yourself, reconnect with the authentic self that has been buried for so long. Mine was buried probably since I was about 4 years old. And now what I have is a support system. I have mentors that I can look to. I am a mentor for others. I'm a coach, and I love watching the transformation of my clients. They are going through this. I have them go through the same process that I went through. And you never stop growing and changing. And now I own a dream business. I'm in Canada. I moved halfway across the country. I'm living in the province of my dreams and living the life that I never thought was even possible for me. So it's never too late to go from fear to fabulous. It doesn't matter how old you are. I started this process when I was 58. So again, it's never too late. And all you need is to take that one small step with some courage. Yes, there's going to be doubt all along the way. Take the step anyways and trust that you'll end up exactly where you need to be, because the universe will deliver to you exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. Thank you.
Oops. That went off when I was trying to stop it and it still went. Okay. Lori, thank you so much for that message. Like, I love the message of, like, you're never too late to start, because, you know, we are never too late until we decide. And so that's the thing. We can stop ourselves from going from fear to fabulous, or we can go from fear to fabulous. So Lori, thanks so much for sharing your message and being here on International Women's Day. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Next up, we have Bona. I'm going to bring, let's see, Bona, go ahead and unmute yourself. And we have Bona here on the stage. Bona, I'm going to disappear and you're going to have 4 minutes on the clock. Can't wait to hear what you have to share.
Thank you, Leda, for having me here. And thank you, ladies, for sharing your fantastic stories. They're very inspiring. What I'm going to share is more about a research which was not only done on women, but also on men. And when I did this research, I was a doctoral student myself. And this research showed me that all humans, you know, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, all of you, everyone needs to have grit. And if you need grit, you need to have resilience. And all of you have been talking about resilience. And that's why I thought of, you know, sharing this research with you all. But the most important thing that both grit and resilience needs is to have flow. Flow is a kind of a state of mind where you can concentrate and put your attention to for something for a long period of time. So that is the most important thing that is needed. You know, you all spoke about developing your inner self. And one thing about developing the inner self is developing the flow in you. Developing the, you know, how you develop flow is to develop your concentration, your focus, so you can meditate, you can go marathon running, do all those kind of activities which will intellectually stimulate you. I am a leadership coach. I'm also an executive coach. And this is one of the things that I generally coach my clients with, that, you know, if you have to grow yourself as a leader, if you want to transform yourself into a leader, either of the two, one of the first things you have to know is, where does your flow run? And how do you find your flow? And how do you nurture your flow? So that is one of the biggest takeaways that I would like to share with all of us today here, that finding the flow, I'm sure all of you ladies have a flow somewhere which you all are tapping into. Otherwise, you all wouldn't be here sharing your stories, wonderful stories, which means that there are people out there who are listening to us who might also need to tap into their flows. This flow is a state of mind that will help you all develop the rest of your psychological attributes, such as, you know, when you do your grit, when you get your resilience, these kind of attributes are developed only when flow is in place. So this is the only one thing that I can share with you all here now, which I think is most apt and most contextually matching, that can help, I think, most of the women around, not only women, but also men. So happy International Women's Day to all of you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that about flow. And one thing I myself have learned about flow is that when I'm in flow and everything is like just moving smoothly, sometimes I will put a barrier in front of myself because I feel like it's too easy, right? Or everything is flowing too smoothly. Coming from a chaotic background as a child, it's like I kind of sabotage myself, or self-sabotage, in order to move myself back to that comfort zone of childhood, which was chaos. So it's interesting, like battling flow when you're not used to it. So that's what I'm going through right now. Thank you for sharing that. And this flow state of mind is something that, like, why don't you give us like one tip that we can move into a flow state of mind if we're in a chaotic environment or a chaotic state of mind at that moment?
Okay. So getting into flow state of mind would mean that you have to daily practice something, an intellectual stimulation. So you could practice going for walks for, say, 20 minutes, but keeping that 20-minute practice usually helps. So if you do a daily 20-minute practice, 20 to 30-minute practice, that would help. And it's like a recurring storage of energy that happens in you if you're continuously doing it every day. So you can go to marathon running, you can do just running, you don't have to get into marathon running, just run. You can go swimming, you can get into music, you can play music, you can write journals, you can meditate, look at a candle, the flame of a candle, and meditate for 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, but do it at a stretch. So if you're doing it from 20 to 30 minutes at a stretch every day, that is the time that would take you back into, your mind, the psychological state of your mind, the physiological state of your mind would actually start developing into getting into a flow state. So if you do it every day, by 21 days, that would become a habit, and that would help to, sort of develop a storage of flow in you. So when you tap into it, it will be there for you. And going back to it or regressing, as you mentioned, Linda, is possible. But when you're into it and if you're really enjoying it, then you generally do not want to go back into a regression. And that happens because you're enjoying being in that state of mind. So if you're doing it daily, if you practice it daily, any kind of intellectual stimulation, that should help you to, go through this stage of regression if you're having, or develop the storage of flow that you need in you. I hope that answers.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing just that idea of reminding us to get into that flow state of mind. Thank you for being here at International Women's Day. I truly appreciate your message.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. I love that. I love that because I have those tendencies to go back into that chaotic environment, in my head, in my whole body, everything. And so just knowing how to come out of it is something that's going to be very beneficial. The next up, I'm going to bring up to the stage, Lakeisha. Hi, Lakeisha. Good to see you today. You're unmuted. So we're ready to go. I'm going to disappear here and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I am a woman who turns fear into fuel. So with that, after writing my first book in 2024, Rediscovering the Goddess, I created a story of accomplishment with underlined fear. So what this looks like is me showing up at an event and I'm ready to perform as a poet, as an author. I'm even more ready for the performance to be over. What this feels like is that it's an imposter syndrome. And within this imposter syndrome, I was supposed to create this alter ego that would show up for me whenever I became doubtful, nervous, or fearful. And sometimes that would actually happen where I felt like it was a different version of me showing up. And I would tell my story of triumph and achievement. And with the triumph part, that comes in with my achievement of being a published author. I wanted that title and I accomplished it. I planned and successfully hosted book launches. After the book launch, I scheduled monthly events in person, virtually. You know, I gave myself exposure to a larger audience. And so with that, I created monthly book clubs and served as open mics. I made the event open to the public. I brought in my audience space. And I did all of this through self-doubt of what ifs. The nervousness of public speaking was there, and even the fearfulness of being seen was there. So for instance, I would think, what if, what's going on? Am I talking too fast? What if no one finds me interesting? What if no one shows up to the events? If I get on stage, what if my mind goes blank? What should I do? Should I dress like this? Or should I look professional like this type of actress or celebrity? How long is too long to speak? Will I connect with my audience? The questions goes on and on. And so the interesting part is that I showed up anyway. And I showed up with the self-doubt of what ifs, the nervousness of public speaking, and the fearfulness of being seen. And when I showed up, the universe supplied me with many more opportunities. And from the most recent author expo that I attended, I was scheduled to read some of the poetry from my book. And there was a speaker before me and a guitarist that was after me. So after I read my poems, I was able to connect with the speaker who came before me. And so with that connection, I secured a spot on her podcast for the next month. And that exposed me to yet another larger audience, increasing my outreach. And then I was also invited to sit on the panel of a published author panel at an expo for the following month at that same event. So not only did I push through my fear of nervousness and self-doubt, but I accepted someone's invitation to continue to show up for myself. So I turned that fear into fuel by increasing my invisibility. I showed up. And you know what? I know you guys are saying, what? I've noticed that fear never truly goes away. There may be some level of fear, whether it's the fear of showing up, the fear of speaking, the fear of making money, paying taxes on that money, you know, the list goes on. Because there's so many levels of fear, it can show up big and small. The trick is to notice it, but don't let it paralyze you. And I'm a believer that there's goodness on the other side of fear. I'm a believer because I've experienced it, even with the invitation to speak and the opportunities for more exposure, and also the pathways to make long-lasting connections. So please note, fear can be tricky, and it can show up differently for everyone. Sometimes there could be resistance or forgetfulness or even stubbornness masked as fear, because fear is emotion-based. So fear comes up when there's a sense of danger or pain or harm, whether that's true or not. So my advice for individuals who want to use fear as fuel is to reflect on those last 2 or 3 opportunities and ask yourself, did I push through? And just know you're a success because you showed up and you pushed through. So keep thriving and keep striving. Thank you.
Perfect.
As you know, fear is one of my favorite topics. So I love this. I use that phrase all the time too. You know, you can use fear to fuel you or to fail you. Yeah. And so, I love how you're doing that. And yeah, showing up. Because you mentioned, you know, showing up anyway, because the opportunities that lie on the other side of that fear, you don't know what they are. And that's the exciting part. I think a lot of people get scared by those possible opportunities, but you can see those opportunities as great opportunities that can help you to live a better life. So thank you so much, Lakeisha, for sharing your message about using your fear as fuel to fuel you forward for a better life. Thank you so much for being here for International Women's Day.
Thank you.
Oh man, that's for those who don't know me, I broke through a fear every single day for a year. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, breaking through those fears. So next up, we're going to bring up our next fearless woman, Alice. Alice, we're going to bring you up to the stage. You got 4 minutes on the clock, and look forward to hearing what you have to share. Alice?
Thank you so much, and I appreciate this opportunity, Linda. So I'm going to talk about resilience as well. Big surprise, right? In a couple of different ways. So I started my corporate career at the tender age of 21, long enough ago that a computer coordinator was coordinating one whole computer in the office. So I spent 17 years in my corporate life, starting in that very entry-level position and then ending it as the vice president of field technology. And as Sally shared, I did all of that without a college degree either. So that is part of that resilience of building, not letting things stop you. I found, especially in that era, I was often the youngest and only woman in the room, and was able to climb that ladder. After 17 years, my position, my job was eliminated through some things going on with the company, which was understandable at the time, but startling because I'd been a good achiever, exceeding expectations. Like, why is this happening, right? So I knew the first thing I wanted to do is not work for someone else. So that's why I started my company, which we're celebrating 20 years, and said, I'm going to do this and not have that working for somebody else deal going on. So built my business 10 years in, I had a stroke, which put a little bump in that road. Actually, I probably should say there was a large bump in the road, and had a very unfavorable diagnosis. It was not sure how I was going to end up after this. So, especially as most of what I do is about thinking, I was concerned, that was my first fear, speaking of fears, that I would not be able to think the way I used to. As I came out of this fog, I had gone from one day of having a really bad headache and double vision, ending up at an emergency room, and then waking up in a normal, quote unquote, average hospital room, and learned that I actually spent 10 days in the ICU, don't remember it, went into the normal room, and then went for most of the next year recovering. Spent time in a nursing home for occupational therapy. And then after that, was still able to come back to my own house as I live alone. And my fabulous brother and his family took me in for 9 more months of working through the thinking, the walking, the processing, all of that kind of stuff. And through all of that, that foundation I'd built kept coming back to, you can do this, break it down into one step at a time, think through the pieces, you will get back to where you were, and learning a number of things along the way, like it's okay to ask for help. Having double vision, not being able to drive myself around, I needed to ask for help with that. I needed to ask for help for a lot of things, and that was not my comfort zone at all. So my message for you guys all on International Women's Day is you can do it. Keep that in mind. Look for the help you need. It's okay to need help, and rely on some other people to help you get to where you need to go. Thank you, Linda.
Okay, I'm coming.
I know I'm 23 seconds early.
I know. I'm like, shoot, I was taking notes. I was writing notes. That's awesome. Alice, thank you so much for sharing that. What I love about your message, first of all, congratulations, 10 years ago, I guess it was, that you had the stroke, and then, to get to move through that, and, having people in your life that helped you through that situation. But there were several things that you mentioned that were very interesting here, is because they dovetailed with the other speakers today. And that was, talking about grit, right? So you had that grit to keep going. Bona talked about that a little bit earlier. The fear piece, had Lakeisha talked about that, as well as Lori talked about that. And then we had like the unexpected situation, which is what happened with Chineme, right? So we had all these different things that roll into one. Like, our stories are similar, yet very vastly different, and our experiences are completely different. And so, it's interesting how, like, I love how the stories interact, intersect with each other. Sally talked about pouring into self, like talk about having to pour, like you were forced to pour into self, right? You're forced into that situation. There was nothing else you could do in that situation. So, thank you so much for sharing your message and your story. And you're here on International Women's Day to empower, inspire people to take action to that next step. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, this is really a great session here at International Women's Day. So excited to share their stories, their messages. If there's something that you took away from one of the speakers today, I hope you drop something in the chat, in the comments, so that they can see that with you. And then also so you can help them to know that they inspired you to take an action in your life. If you're sitting on the fence and you're not sure what to do, what your next step is in your own life, I want you to really think about what is something that they said that can inspire me to take that next action. Just know this, that you are not stuck where you are today forever unless you choose to be. This is a choice. So if you want to move on and you want to do something different, sometimes it's a matter of surrounding yourself with positive, uplifting people who will help you to see things differently, will help you to see that there is more out there. I just don't know how to get there, because trust me, there is. So, thank you so much for being here. International Women's Day, celebrating women all over the world, their messages, their mission, their stories. And this is Linda Sunshine West with Action Takers Publishing. Truly appreciate you being here. You have a story inside of you. If you're ready to tell it, go to actiontakerspublishing.com. Get your story into the world where it will make a greater impact on the planet. Thanks so much for being here. It's hard to look away. Oh, shoot, I disappeared.